Operation Confidence proudly presents America's Invisible Heroes radio talk show. Tune in weekly on Sundays from 2 to 3:30 p.m. Pacific Time with your hosts, Consuelo Mackey, co-host U.S. Air Force veteran Matt Davidson, announcers Taylor Marcella and Brooke Gadesi, U.S. Army veteran and entertainment host Charles Whitehead, U.S. Army Special Forces veteran and I Once Was Whole segment host Richard Cook, U.S. Army veteran and Lifeline for Women's Veterans segment host Martha Elena Varela, National Faith Program Director and Veterans in Recovery segment host Anthony Akimpora, and U.S. Air Force veteran and Incarceration to Success segment host Kevin Lewandowski. For more information or to be a guest on our show, email info@operationconfidence.org.
Okay, welcome everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Americans Invisible Heroes. This show is dedicated to our veterans and their families. And yes, I'm your host, Consuelo Mackey, longtime hairstylist, fashion designer, and executive director of a grassroots nonprofit organization called Operation Confidence. No, I'm not a veteran, but my heart goes out to our American heroes, especially veterans who are disabled and may have experienced homelessness. For those who are new to the show, American Invisible Heroes was established to provide a platform for our veterans to be able to share their experiences, heartfelt stories, resources, challenges, and accomplishments. Now I'd like to introduce you to our wonderful co-host, Matt Davidson, U.S. Army veteran, a co-host, and a board member. Charles Whitehead, U.S. Army Reserve veteran, board member, and also a co-host. Taylor Marcellus, board member, and one of our announcers. Brooke Gadesi, board member, and also an announcer. Martha Varela, she'll be on a little later. She's our advisory board member, and she has a weekly segment called Lifeline for Women Veterans. Anthony Akimpora, he has a monthly segment called Veterans in Recovery. And last but not least, Ann Montague, she has a bi-monthly segment called the Rosies movement. I'd like to welcome you and say hello to everyone and wave so everyone will know who you are.
Oh,
hello.
Okay. Well, I wanted to turn it over to you, Matt, but before I do so, I hope everyone had a great, happy New Year's, and we look forward to a blessed year to come. Take it away, Matt.
This afternoon, I wish to share a heartfelt story written by Sidney Page of the Washington Post Lifestyle section. The story involves a child and a World War II veteran. The child, Deshwana Priest, sitting in her third grade classroom, wrote a letter of appreciation to a World War II veteran she did not know. The veteran, now 95 years old, Frank Grasberger, was the recipient of her letter, which he still has and carries with him wherever he goes, carefully folded in an envelope and never without it. The handwritten note, printed on a sheet of lined paper, imparts a simple message of gratitude. It says, "Thank you for saving us from Hitler. If it wasn't for you, we would never have freedom." Reading the letter for the first time moved Grasberger to tears. The message included a crayon drawing of an American flag and an Army helmet. Now 21, Priest knows little about the war or the veterans to whom she wrote her letter. But she always looked up to people in uniform and took service very seriously. She didn't realize that the recipient would take her letter very seriously too. According to this article, Grasberger was eager to connect with the kind girl and decided to draft his own note to her in response. He wrote, "You really made me feel very good about fighting the war. War is a terrible thing, but if it helped to keep you and many others free, it was well worth it. Grasberger's wife, Dolores, mailed a letter to Priest's school, though the couple never got a confirmation that she actually received it. Quoting Grasberger, he presented his cherished letter to Jill Kowalski, the resident services director at Vitalia Senior Residence in Strongville, Ohio. The Grasbergers, who have been married for nearly 75 years, have 2 daughters, 2 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren reside there. He told a story about how he received a letter in 2009. Even 12 years later, he was just so touched that his service meant something to someone. Grasberger also responded, his unrelenting wish to track her down, to track the young child down. I was just so moved that he was holding on to something so small that other people might have crumpled up and thrown away. She said, if anybody deserved this moment, it's definitely him. The story continues with Kowalski surfing social media, and after a few quick searches, she found a profile on Instagram that seemed like a possible match, given the name and that the person looked to be about 21 years old. Kowalski was unsure if she had the right woman, but decided to give it a shot and sent her a private message. She said, I hit the nail on the head. The story continues with Priest being stunned to see the message in her inbox. She knew exactly what letter and veteran the stranger was referring to. I was so excited, said Priest, a member of the Army National Guard. She too had reflected on the letter over the years, and she did in fact receive the reply from Grasberger. She keeps his letter safely stowed in a memory box filled with other sentimental tokens from childhood. I read it from time to time, she said, and I think about him. I always wanted to have a conversation with him because of everything he wrote in the letter. Kowalski invited Priest, who lives in Sandusky, Ohio, to come surprise Grasberger at his home, and she was on board right away. Only 3 days later, on July 23rd, Priest showed up at the retirement community dressed in her military uniform with a dozen red roses in her hand. Grasberger was told someone was coming to interview him about the letter, but he had no idea Priest had finally been found or that she was there to meet him in person. When she walked into the room, Grasberger immediately exclaimed, "You're not the girl." When Grasberger finally grasped that he was in the young woman he had long been searching for, he turned to her, grabbed her hand and said, "I love you so much, I really do." They both broke down in tears. Grasberger showed her the letter she wrote 12 years ago, and likewise she showed him the letter he wrote in response. "This is a godsend," Grasberger said. They sat across from one another, clutching tissues. "I never thought I'd see you." Over the course of the nearly 3-hour meeting, I went through 2 boxes of Kleenex. Grasberger, who was an engineer for 32 years after leaving the military, while he reminisced about his time in the war and his treacherous experience in the Battle of the Bulge, the final major German military attack in Western Europe. Priest, who is now a mother, told him about her 6-month-old son, Cairo. "He's so full of life," Priest said of Grasberger. "He's just an amazing person." Since meeting for the first time in late July, Their friendship has blossomed over regular phone calls, and Priest is planning to visit the Grassbergers again with her son coming in the coming weeks. She's one of our daughters. We looked 12 years for her, so now we have to enjoy her now, said Dolores Grassberger, 93. For Frank Grassberger, meeting Priest has been one of the many miracles in his life. He said, at 95 years old, it was the one thing I was still missing. When asked if he now feels complete, having found his long lost pen pal, Grassberger nodded, grinned widely, and said, "Oh yes, very much so." And you can go into the
That is so
Washington
beautiful.
Post lifestyle section, and you can bring up the photographs. There's some beautiful photographs there from this story. And
Yeah, I think Charles is bringing them up now. Charles. Yeah, that's such a heartfelt story. He's 90. How old was he?
He's 95 years old.
Wow. And she was a little girl in kindergarten. That's amazing how they met up. Well,
And she was 12 years old when she wrote the letter.
she was how 4 or 5, right? She was in
12.
kindergarten, I believe. That is so touching.
Mhm.
Charles, were
It's
you
a
able to
good
find
story.
the pictures?
I have the picture.
Can you show it real quick?
I'm gonna show it right now. Let me close this, boom, and then we'll go back here. I'll say share screen and boom, there.
There we go. Isn't that great?
They are.
That is so precious. God bless them. Okay.
Great
Thank you,
story.
Charles.
Great
And
story.
thank you, Matt. That's a beautiful, beautiful story.
And thanks for the lead, Connie.
Oh, my pleasure. Okay, moving right along. Since Martha's gonna come on later, Brooke, can you do us the honors and give our introduction to Anne?
Yes, I will. Anne Montague is a Rosie's daughter. Some of her first memories are about the home war front effort, saving grease and taking it to the store to be used in the war effort, their large victory garden, and her mother going to work in the mornings feeling well, but coming back dizzy from inspecting lenses at what they called the war factory. Rosies are the surviving women who worked on the home front for the war effort during World War II. We encourage people to find them, learn what they did, and get Americans to work with them now. Most of them are above 90 years old to do projects that leave a lasting record of their legacy. Each Rosie is different, and each story has the human touch. And when you put their stories together about what they did during the war, their legacy is more than one story. Thus, their legacy is to do today what they did in World War II, which is to pull together to do the highest quality work to keep and use our freedom. It's on you, Anne.
Take it away. You're muted, girlfriend. And you're muted. There
So
you go.
sorry, so sorry. Instead
okay.
of bringing your Rosie today, as we typically do, and how proud I am of how receptive you are to these wonderful women, I'm bringing you Bill Kamer. Bill is resident of Washington, D.C. I met him because he's also executive director of the Four Chaplains Chapel, which is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The chapel has an incredibly interesting history of four chaplains who gave up their life jackets when their non-military ship was hit in 1943, and they all went down except for a few people who had life jackets. So the three chaplains locked arms. We were talking about chaplains from different faiths. and essentially went down singing and gave their jackets to men who, I think most of those four men that got the life jackets survived, but I don't know if anybody knows. Anyway, the point is that Bill in the Chapel of the Four Chaplains began to relate to the Rosies about 4 or 5 years ago. I started going in and out of Philadelphia to choose Philadelphia as a model Rosie the Riveter city, and they've done an excellent job. And primarily the job they've done has been under the direction of Bill. Now also, Bill, as a background, was in the military, and his job was to train chaplains. So I'm going to leave it over to Bill now. And Bill, why don't you just start talking about the Rosies and any particular things that you think are outstanding, and we can come in with questions from me or from anybody else, okay?
Okay, thanks, Ann. Yeah, I'm Bill Cameron, the Executive Director for the Chapel of Four Chaplains. I did serve 30 years in the Army as a chaplain assistant. So in your military, chaplains are ordained ministers that are called to serve. It's a volunteer calling to the military. And then the chaplain assistant role is also volunteer. We say MOS, or military occupancy specialty. So I chose to serve with the chaplains. And when I retired in 2018, I took on the role as this director at the Chapel of Four Chaplains. So we house our foundation in an old 1942 military chapel, which is on the Navy Yard. So where the Rosies came in, it was kind of a natural fit because Philadelphia is the home of the Navy. And at one point during World War II, there was over 40,000 people working at the Navy Yard. They built over 50 of the combat vessels that served during World War II. So a lot of the Rosies are connected to that Philadelphia Navy Yard. So part of our connection just so happened that some of the Rosies came into our building, and it kind of started there. And then we connected with Ann, and we host at least one annual event every year when we do our bell ringing on Memorial Day with all the Rosies. But we try to partner with her, and I think that comes out of my time in the military as chaplain assistants. What we become is kind of the resource person for any military base. The chaplain has a distinct role to be a pastor and a counselor, but then the office pulls together all other resources to share with our military personnel and families. So that's kind of what I've done with our foundation. You know, we reach out, just like American Heroes, we reach out to other organizations and that are trying to serve veterans, and we try to pull them into our orbit. So Ann was an easy connection. We love the Rosies. They play right into not only the Navy Yard, but also the story of the Four Chaplains. I mean, that ship was a merchant mariner ship that went down on February 3rd, 1943. So coming up in a couple of weeks, we'll host our annual banquet. And then next year will be the 80th anniversary of the story. So I don't know if you have any other questions. I'll let you answer some questions, Ann, and then otherwise I'll just keep talking. So
well, why don't we talk about some of the things you've done there at the chapel? And for example, you gave an award to Cass Forkin, I believe, about maybe 4 years ago. It's been a while. As a person who there in Philadelphia had really promoted one of the Rosies. Her name is May Cryer. Then after that, you've been involved in almost every annual event that we've had since, including the Ring a Bell for Rosies. Tell about the Washington, D.C. event. Now, he is a Washington resident who takes a train into Philly. But tell about the Washington, D.C. event and the Philadelphia event this last September 3rd, if you will, Bill.
Yes, we had, they established 5 model Rosie cities. Philadelphia was lucky to be one of them. DC was a second. So since I live in DC, and they were hosting the event in the Navy Yard here in DC, which is just a short walk from my house. I participated in that. They held it in a beautiful, probably one of the best kept secrets in DC. There's actually a Navy museum. It's found on the Navy Yard. The problem is access to it is a little more difficult. It's just not totally open to the public. But we held the event there to honor the different Rosies in this community. And it was a great event. We also had the Dutch Embassy participate. They're a big player in the Rosies. And right after that event, I did travel to the Netherlands, in fact, and I did an event there, and it reinforced the connection between the Dutch people and the Rosies. Why they're so thankful is for, after the war, many of the planes that delivered food and supplies and medical supplies to the Netherlands, there was a connection to the Rosies help building these planes. So the people there have a great fondness to the Rosies. And then we, of course, we did that event. I believe it was a Friday, and then Monday I was up in DC, and then up in Philly, and then we hosted our event. And we had June Robbins, who's a Rosie that lives in Pennsylvania, and she was kind of the VIP at our event there. And she's always a great person to have. She's got a lot of energy, more energy than I got, and she's probably, I don't know, maybe she's in her 90s and she makes me tired being around her. So we had an event there, and, and we even laid a wreath in the Delaware River by dry dock number 1. And that's where she worked as a 17-year-old high school student. She got permission to work at the Navy Yard, and she worked there as a young Rosie during the war. So we went there to the area that she worked and laid a wreath in the water. And it was a great event, both of them.
Wow.
And by the way, Bill, this group knows June. June's been a guest twice.
All right.
So this is really good. Actually, I'm hoping that some of you can ask Bill some questions, and be sure and call time if we're running over time, Connie.
Oh, I will.
Okay. Does anybody have questions for Bill?
Well, I wanted them to know that we have Anthony as one of our segment hosts, and he's a chaplain. Anthony, you want to chime in?
Yeah, thank you, Connie. So, Bill, I was just going to ask, because I've been a chaplain. I'm more in the addiction and mental health field, but I know a lot of different chaplains in law enforcement and also in the military and things like that. And how is it with the military as far as the connection and the camaraderie with the chaplaincy? Because I think it differs with different fields and industries. But I was just interesting to know how that played out in the military with the chaplaincy.
I think there's a lot of diversity. There's somewhat diversity. About 80% of chaplains in the military come from a Protestant background. So that's why one reason why the Four Chaplain story gained a lot of traction, because they purposely put together a team of a rabbi, a priest, and a Protestant that they were sending to Greenland. I think there's always a push to get more diversity in the chaplain corps. There's very few imams, Buddhists, Hindu chaplains. The majority of them again are Protestant. But there's two components to be a chaplain in the military. One of which is you serve all military members, regardless of what their belief system is. But then you're also able to, if you're doing service, or preaching on your day of worship, you're allowed to preach in the tenet of your faith. So if you're a Catholic, you do a Catholic mass. If you're a Methodist, you do Methodist service. So they walk this line between kind of serving in somewhat a very diverse population. I think over the years, the word chaplain, it has not a variety of meanings, but a variety of training. If you have a chaplain in the military, we know they all went to seminary. and they're highly trained. If I go to American Legion post, I'll meet a chaplain, and they just happen to be the nicest guy on the post, and they got the title chaplain, so, and then there's everything in between, police, fire chaplains have different rules. So I'm always in the constant role of training, and I try to combine. I think the military can teach a lot to civilian chaplains and pastors. And I also think the military can learn from on the civilian world. I'll leave with this comment. So when I joined 1989, the majority of the chaplain, I'll use National Guard and Reserve, for instance, the majority of National Guard Reserve chaplains all had a civilian occupation as a pastor in a church or imam, and or they're a rabbi in a synagogue. And that shifted during the course of the last 20 years, in which less than 50% of our reserve chaplains now serve in a capacity as a full-time preacher. So that the Army Chaplain Corps, the active duty, recruits from this pool. So that was a concern of theirs. Are they getting the training they need on the civilian side to be able to preach, counsel, all that stuff, and then bring it to the military? Because that is definitely, they have to have that skill set. It's a little late when we put people in the toughest situations in their lives, to find out they never did a funeral before or never counseled somebody in grief. So that's, I think, the new challenge in the military is finding these chaplains that can serve under those conditions.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Bill for coming on and sharing that amazing story, and you, Anthony, having the opportunity to meet him. I mean, that's great, huh?
Yeah.
You trained the chaplain, so you guys
Thanks
have to
what you do out
connect.
there, sir. Thanks.
Something you might want to know about Bill in closing here is he's now working for Arlington Cemetery.
Okay.
At the beginning of the COVID, his the chapel of the Four Chaplains essentially ran into not being able to rent it out for weddings and that sort of thing. So then he volunteered to go ahead and stay on as executive director of the chapel, but he also then took a full-time job at Arlington Cemetery. Why don't you tell them what you do at Arlington there,
Yeah,
Bill?
real quick. Arlington, there's over 450,000 people interned at Arlington. What they found during the last 2 years with COVID, they canceled over 2,000 of services because of COVID. So Arlington gets about 35 requests a day, and they can only do a maximum of about 30 services a day. So it created this big delta in trying to serve those that are trying to come to Arlington. So a friend of mine asked if I would, with my background, if I would help. So I've been scheduling services, and I also are trained now to escort services. But it's a great staff there. They're very dedicated, but it's a battle every day, trying to get people into Arlington, because you have to do the research to make sure they are entitled to be there. Then you have to contact the families, you got to set up the services, and then you got to perform the services. So these guys are working extremely hard, and the chaplains there are just outstanding. I mean, it's a no-fail environment. I mean, you get to do a funeral once, and you can't mess that up. And so I have a lot of those guys there, I can't do enough to help support them. So that's what I'm trying to do in DC in a small way, to do my part to help their effort. So
I think that's just wonderful.
A final comment I want to make is that I'm so pleased to know Bill, because he has that personality of understanding diversity, and it essentially it's a very strong and very powerful characteristic that he has to be able to pull people together.
Right, he's amazing, and we want to I want you to invite him back on the show again. Bill, you always welcome. You have a place here. I thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
And Anthony, did you share with Bill the center that you represent on a national level?
No, but I will. Bill, so I'm with a company called Banyan Treatment Centers, and it's mainly substance
You
abuse.
take it back, Charles. He's got the Rosies picture up there. I just wanted everyone to know who the Rosies were.
But yeah, it's a substance abuse and mental health organization. We deal with people from all over the country. We have a faith-based program in South Florida, but just about a year ago, we implemented a veterans in recovery program, and it's really taken off, especially in the past 6 months or so. So we have 5 veterans right now in our faith program in Pompano, but we also have faith services on telehealth throughout the country at our 14 locations. So I would love to connect with you, maybe talk after at some point, like, this week or whatever, because we're dealing with a lot of veterans, and I would love to kind of learn a little bit more from your experience. And but it's a blessing. We've had so many veterans come in, and the great thing about it is they're able to stay a lot longer in treatment, which they really need, rather than just a 28 days or 30 days, because it's going through the VA program, the Veterans Choice Program. So it's very beneficial to our veterans, and they really, really need that type of intensity and that type of time. We had one guy that was with us for eight months, actually. So, and the trauma and the PTSD and just the moral injury and so many different things that they're dealing with, it takes time to process all that. But thank you for your service, and it's great hearing from you.
Thanks.
And I'll send him, if he doesn't mind, I'll give you his email address after the show is over.
Please do. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We have to change the script around a little bit because I know Matt has to leave soon. So Matt, would you please do us the honor of introducing your guest, Miss Margaret Clark, editor-in-chief of Veteran Voices.
Margaret Clark is the editor-in-chief of Veterans Voices magazine. This is a periodical published by the Veterans Voices Writing Project. She is a writer and editor who began as a newspaper reporter and then spent the balance of her professional career executing and promoting events, special programs, and exhibits for public libraries. She has served in a leadership capacity for several professional and philanthropic organizations, including, among others, a journalism organization, local and state friends of library groups, a symphony support group, and a historical society. Margaret is married and makes her home in Kansas City, Missouri, where Veterans Voices Writing Project is headquartered. It's also where I came across my wife, Ann, and had our son, Matthew.
Really?
No, it is my honor and joy to introduce Margaret. Welcome, Margaret.
Welcome, Margaret.
Well, thank you for having me. It's quite a group, and like the Rosies and the Chaplains have their cross-pollination or their things in common. As I've listened, there are many things that Veterans Voices, the writing project, has in common with all of you as well. The one thing I regretted when I sent Matt my bio, when I learned that you all were headquartered in California, was that I didn't say in my bio that I was a California native, that I was born and raised in San Diego, which of course is a real military town, and was certainly a military town during World War II when, right before I lived there. So
oh, that's
I have
great.
very fond thoughts, yeah.
How long have you been away from California?
Oh, a long time, 60 years.
Oh my goodness.
It's been a long time.
Don't you miss the sunny California?
Oh, I don't miss the sun as much as, because in the Midwest, you have the wonderful 4 seasons of the year. But the thing I do miss probably almost every day is the ocean, because in San Diego, you were right there.
Yeah, that's right. San Diego, you can just walk out your door.
That's right, almost, not quite, but almost.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I got you covered.
Yeah, that's right. Charles lives in Long Beach, and that's why he has that coat on.
I'm
He's
right.
right at the ocean, right next to the
Outside my
Queen
window
Mary.
right now, and I see the Queen Mary
Ah,
water. I see the container ships that are all waiting for their, so
oh, to be
I see
loaded
all of that
onto
stuff.
a
That's
truck,
right out of his
right?
window there.
Oh,
But go ahead, Margaret. Please finish your presentation. It's quite exciting.
Yes.
well, Veterans Voices is like, I see that Paralyzed Veterans of America is 75 years old. Veterans Voices Writing Project is 75 years old. It was founded right after World War II to offer recreation and mental health relief to veterans returning from World War II. And now 75 years later, how many wars have we gone through? Almost all, the story that Matt read about the World War II veteran, the 95-year-old, he is definitely the minority. There are not very many 95-year-old World War II veterans left. And after all of this time, what is it, 5 or 6, wars and military actions, we still are encountering veterans that need the relief that writing can give. And the name of your organization, Operation Confidence, one of the best ways to gain confidence is to write your thoughts on paper. And then the bonus is if you send your writing to veteransvoices.com for possible inclusion in our magazine, you can even see your writing in print.
Oh, I love to. I'll have Matt to help me. I would love that. Thank you.
Well, and anyone who is an active military personnel or anyone who is a military veteran is welcome to submit their work. We publish both prose and poetry, both stories and poetry, and they write about everything we've talked about this afternoon. I remember a story about the Four Chaplains that appeared in our magazine years and years ago.
Really?
And they write about, our veterans write about PTSD. They write about their feelings. They write about the military experience, things they experienced during their years in the service. They write about mortality, suicide, PTSD, moral injury, natural wonders of the world, animals, pets, military dogs. Was it Brooke that has her dog on the conference with us? They write about current events and the things they're worried. In this last issue of the magazine, there was a story about leaving the interpreters, or as they called them, the Terps, behind. They write about Black Lives Matter, COVID, 9/11, just, all
everything.
Kinds of,
that is so cool.
Yeah, lots of variety.
Yeah.
The magazine is published 3 times a year. It's by subscription for a paper copy, but it is available on our website online about a month after the paper copy comes out.
You have a big job over there, don't you? And you're editor-in-chief, right?
Right, of the magazine. That's right.
Right. That's amazing.
Margaret, go ahead.
One time, I worked with a woman veteran who suffered military sexual trauma, and she was very much taken with drugs, alcohol, and the idea of suicide.
Oh, wow.
And I worked with her on a one-on-one basis, asking her to write out her experiences, because I feel that writing is a healing experience. And I notice it on Veterans Voices. You'll see a lot of articles that have to do with PTSD. And these men and women are getting it out of them and cleaning themselves from these experiences by writing about
exactly. It's therapeutic.
And this woman veteran did just that. She wrote about it and she released it from her spirit, and she cleansed herself from it, and she became well. She's well now, and she's on the road to being a writer. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, and what Veterans Voices does is an incredible service. to humanity, especially veteran humanity.
Mhm.
I've always respected them for what they do, and I still respect them. And I hope you go on for many, many, many more years.
For sure. I would love that too. Well, I'm going to sure submit ours.
May I ask a question here, Margaret? As we've interviewed Rosies, it's about 200 Rosies I've interviewed now and gotten close to many of them. What we very often find, I would say, in at least a quarter of the interviews, is the men would not talk about what had happened in World War II, or even their children or grandchildren. But the women, they would tell the wives, they would tell the Rosies. And so one of the things we found was that we learned a lot about the trauma of these veterans, especially the men, who would tell their wives or their grandmothers or their grandmothers. Do you do any publication of any of those stories of the women who can speak for what the men went through, but they couldn't talk about?
We publish only stories that are written by veterans or current military personnel. But if you could find a military person or a veteran to interview the Rosie or the wife then they could write the story for that person, because you're talking about the classic problem with these kinds of issues, like Matt just mentioned the physical assault, or the moral injuries that occur in battle. It is definitely something that people cannot talk about, that people have difficulty talking about, and they're able to express themselves on paper or by writing much easier. So if you could find someone to interview the Rosies or those women you're talking about and tell the story for them, then we would be happy. I would love to have a Rosie story. I don't think we ever have.
And I want to interject for a second. We've had several of the Rosies on the show, Margaret, and it has been one of the most wonderful opportunities for us to hear some of the stories, and they're like 89, 99, 100, just as articulate, funny, and they can remember everything that happened back in World War II. I mean, the interview that you would be able to have someone like Matt to do for them, it would just be eye-opening, or Anne, but you just have to have some of the Rosies in your magazine. Those stories are just heartfelt.
One of the Rosies is Ruth Edwards. She's on our board. Her husband was in Baton Death March, and he was literally thrown in the death house, as with other dying bodies, etc. And that's only about a quarter of the horror that he faced. And he could never talk about it to anybody, and couldn't really hold down a job. He couldn't look people in the face, etc. She ended up being head of all education for the state of West Virginia business. But she also was on the board of directors for Dow Chemical and so forth. She's an excellent person. And do you have anybody who would like to interview her? Because my time is short.
Matt would be able to do that if he has time.
Okay, that's great. And I'll let her know.
Veteran.
All right, thank you so much.
And Martha just came on. I know everybody's in a bit of a hurry now, and I know, Matt, you have to leave soon. But Martha is a U.S. Army veteran, and she has a story that has to be written in this is Veterans Voices, Martha, a phenomenal magazine that's 75 years old. I know you've heard of it. And yes. I would just love to have your story. She's offered that veterans could have stories in the magazine, and yours is just compelling. So and real quick, tell a little bit about you real quick. I know that Matt and Martha has to leave, and so does Bill. You missed out on Bill. He's amazing too. He actually teaches chaplains some of the fundamentals of becoming a chaplain, huh, Bill?
That'd be yes. Sorry,
Okay.
couldn't find my mute button. There you go.
Right. We're going to cook Bill and Tony up together. But go
Nice.
ahead, Martha, please.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you guys for being patient. I had just some issues this morning that little bit of time difference there this morning for me. So that being said, I just wanted to jump right in and say hello to everyone. But Anne, if you need someone to help you interview the Rosies, I don't know if there would be, preference of a male or a female veteran. I could also dedicate my time, because I'll second what Connie said.
That's very much needed. I have
Okay.
Rosies come to me, then I can interview myself. We're going to be having a Zoom meeting
Okay.
to teach people to do interviews, but we also have another higher step than that, where we're
Okay,
going to be
great.
putting ways to interview on our website so people can learn, be tutorial. But
That'd be great. But we need to get back.
love to have you involved in that. Yes.
I know that Matt and Margaret
Yeah,
has to
so
leave, so I
between-
just jump right in real quick,
Yeah,
Martha.
sure. Yeah, so between the two of us, I think we could find someone to help interview the Rosies, because I agree. I think that they're wonderful
I love
stories,
them.
remarkable stories that need to be told. So that being said, really quickly, I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I spent 6 years in the Minnesota Army National Guard. I was a 91 Bravo, which is a combat field medic. So I signed up to be the soldier to go out in the middle of the battlefield and grab my buddies who were injured. Just had an interest at 18 years old of going into the medical field. I actually joined the National Guard when I was 17, a junior in high school. So I drilled my senior year. And then after senior year, I went to basic training at Fort Dix, New Jersey with my buddy, Charles Whitehead over there, who also went to Fort Dix,
That's
New
right.
Jersey. So fresh out of high school, had no clue what the real world was like, just knew that I had a lot of leadership potential, and I had to show my old school parents that, I could do it. I could get out there and make them proud. So although I never saw combat, I did come back, like I said, and drill with the National Guard for another 6 years in total. And then I shifted my focus to social work. So I started the social work education in 1994, where I'm losing track of time, when I was 21 years old. So I went into college. But, that was part of why I wanted to join. And I took a look, kind of, if you will, when I got to basic training, to kind of see what things were like in the military. Like I said, I was very young, fresh out of high school. So I decided to go ahead and stick to the National Guard route, because there were some things that I saw, early on that kind of gave me a clue. And there was no way I was going to Germany. I hated the cold and the snow as it was. So Germany was of no interest to me. If they would have sent me to Hawaii, then I could maybe say that I would have changed my mind, as I'm a bigger fan of the warm weather. Nonetheless, shifted my focus. But it was interestingly, when I came here to Los Angeles, California, I grew up in Minnesota, cruising along at maximum speed. But I went back to get my graduate degree in public administration. And although my university was City University in New York, it was a hybrid program for older adults. So we did internships and then studied online. So I was accepted to do my internship at the California Endowment here in downtown Los Angeles. And it was there that I really was heartbroken when I saw the homelessness and the magnitude of how big the problem is here in Los Angeles. And so I knew that God was going to maneuver some things around for me to come back to Los Angeles. And immediately coming back, I started to work with the homeless, elderly, homeless families at the Volunteers of America program. And I was helping get them connected. While there, I was also in charge of the Veterans program. And I really, really got my first glimpse at how severe the homelessness problem was in the veteran community. 9 out of the 10 veterans that I would contact were homeless, doing, just really struggling to meet their basic needs. And so I was able to kind of restructure the veteran program with Volunteers of America. And then from there, went on to work for the National Veterans Foundation.
Okay, but we're I don't want you to give up all your information because we want to have it in the Veterans Magazine.
Oh,
Gonna,
gotcha.
We're going to
Yeah.
run that through Matt
Martha,
since that's since Margaret is his guest, and
Got it.
have him to interview you, and you'll be able to have it in the magazine. So we look forward to
Okay.
that. And
Great.
real quick, I just wanted them to know also that you had gone from the military and experienced homelessness yourself, and now you're successful what you're doing. So you have a lot to offer and a lot to share in that magazine that would touch someone else's heart. Before you came on, Matt was saying some of the women veterans that had experienced PTSD and other veterans had experienced some trauma through writing. Did you say Matt had become healed after that, right? Putting their troubles and experiences on paper, right? Can you hear me, Matt?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was saying that you had said shortly before Martha came on is that some of the veteran women and men that had stories in the magazine had PTSD and other various illnesses that had become more or less healed by putting their sadness and their stories that they had gone through on in an article.
That's right. Writing is a healing exercise.
Very therapeutic.
And veterans who use the publication that Margaret is here to talk about, Veterans Voices, they take advantage of this healing, and it works for them.
Yeah,
and, I would certainly recommend it to any veteran who is in need of healing, and because there's so much trauma out there.
Yeah, we're going through a lot of it today as well. In today's society, it's still trauma.
I have a question for you, Margaret. I know you said it's people write and do poetry as well, and you're digital now, right?
Yes.
Have you guys thought about using veterans? I'm a songwriter myself, and I do songs and I do poems and things like that. So I was wondering if your market would ever expand to that, because there are a lot of people who do write songs who express their feelings through song, just like poetry itself. So
that's true.
Right. That's the lyrics are definitely poetry. And we have published songs, but that was in the days when I had someone who literally hand wrote the notes on top of the lyrics. But I don't know how certainly we have recently published lyrics without the music. I don't know how digitally, is there a way for us to publish music notes digitally, or are we just pretty much limited to the lyrics?
It would be, if you only, I'm saying when digitally, like if you actually posted the lyrics and a song, but but you could post the lyrics just like you're doing, because the lyrics pretty much.
And I hope you'll send us some. Will you send us some, Charles?
Sure.
Some yours?
Yeah,
Charles is a great songwriter.
I wrote a song called "The Story Goes On," and it's about veterans who go to war and then they come back home. Some of them don't make it home and some of them do, but for the ones that don't make it home, and actually also the ones that do make it home, the story goes on, because it's a cycle. Like you said, how many wars have we had? And a lot of times you wonder why we're even fighting for war. We don't know. That question lingers right now about Vietnam, and it's just, why were we really fighting? So I mean, and it's not just Vietnam, but the whole story encompasses the whole. It just goes. The story goes on. It's a cycle that, and I love to sing the lyrics to you. I have them. And then but the song itself is on YouTube. You can go and look it up. Charles Whitehead, "The Story Goes On."
Okay.
And I'll Matt will connect you with her email address as well, so you can.
That would be good. And if Consuela, or Mike, if you could also give me Bill's email, or if that would be all right.
Oh, sure.
because I've recently had a story submitted that talks about a chapel in a VAMC that is not accessible to the veterans in that VAMC. As well as I've read about a chapel on the Navy base in San Diego being closed. And so I just have had several entries that have talked about that. And I'm just wondering what Bill thinks about that. If I could ask him, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. So Bill, you heard her, right? We're gonna give Margaret your email address as well.
Hey, no problem. More than
Okay.
happy to talk about
Great.
it.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, Matt, I know you have to leave, so we want to thank you for bringing on this amazing guest, Margaret. Margaret, you always welcome. Please come back, share some of your stories. And
Thanks for being here, Margaret.
Well, thank you for asking me. It's been delightful. I've really appreciated being here, but also learning. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. And
Good.
we're going to send you a copy of this show today so that you can share it with others. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And look for my story, and look for Ann's story, and look for Margaret's story. look for Charles.
Stories go on.
And the stories go on. Look
That's
for
right.
Anthony's. Okay. Thank you
Take
so
care,
much.
everybody.
Okay. All right. We have to turn the script around a little bit. So we're going to now that Brooke is available. Brooke, you gonna go ahead on and share?
I'm ready when you are.
Okay, go girlfriend.
Help is needed for homeless veterans and their pets. In the United States, around 38,000 veterans are homeless on
Excuse me for
any given night.
Cutting you off. Matt, I know you have to leave, so don't feel obligated. Okay. If you have to, oops, go on.
That was quick.
That was
All right, I'm gonna tell
Was it something I said?
I wanted to say bye.
Matt's like, oh, that's all I needed.
Margaret, you're welcome to stay too, but I know that Matt had to leave, but he has something more to do. But go ahead on now, Brooke. We're talking about helping homeless veterans and their pets.
Both two things close to my heart. In the United States, around 38,000 veterans are homeless on any given night, representing 1/4 of all homeless people. Many of these veterans rely on pets as companions to make it on the street. A common misconception is homeless men and women use pets as a way to get square change. However, the majority of these animals are family pets in the same situation as their human companions. Homeless shelters in many communities are a resource for people who need food and shelter while they work to find employment and get off the street. Unfortunately, a large majority of homeless shelters do not allow pets on their property. Homeless pet owners are then faced with unimaginable decision each night, either to stay with their pet outside and brave the night or check into the shelter and leave their pet to die. We believe no pet should be left behind, especially for our nation's heroes. By retrofitting homeless shelters to accept pets, we can ensure more people get the help they need and that more pets are saved in the process. And that's exactly what Rescue Rebuild plans to do. I'd like to tell you about another amazing organization, Operation Blankets of Love. It's one of the few organizations assisting veterans with pets, including homeless and low-income veterans with pets. They partner with the Veterans Administration on a monthly basis to provide pet food and supplies to VA locations in the San Fernando Valley, West LA, Ventura, and Hemet. Additionally, they participate in VA Stand Down Day events where they provide crucial pet supplies such as food, treats, blankets, toys, leashes, collars, and pet carriers to ensure pets are fed and can be safely contained, especially important if the veteran and pets are living on the streets. Operation Blankets of Love helps 50+ veterans at each event, many of whom have more than one pet. For more information, contact Operation Blankets of Love, 16911 San Fernando Mission Road, that's in Granada Hills, California. Their number is 818-402-6586. That number again, 818-402-6586.
Perfect timing with your dog chiming in, huh?
I know, he's got a lot to say. He wants everyone to call right now.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, I know that we're moving our script a little around a little bit. Anthony, you ready to come on? Woo! You there, Anthony?
Yeah, I'm here. Hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was just going to mention about our recovery and also our recovery program. At,
Is that me or are you a little choppy? Is he
I
choppy?
think it's, I can't hear Anthony at all. He's going in and out. Sounds
Yeah.
like my TV.
Okay, you sound choppy. It's not clear.
Can't hear you at all now.
Now, yeah, I can't hear anything now.
We can't hear you, Anthony. No sound at all. You want to stop? Did you say something?
Yeah.
Oh, you back.
Oh, okay. So I was just talking about our Faith in Recovery and Veterans in Recovery program at Banyan. It's really starting to impact a lot of our veterans. They come into our faith-based program, but they also go to other programs as well. And it's been really awesome to be able to work with organizations and be able to provide based services, not to veterans, but everyone in general. Not everyone comes into this, not everybody's into this type of thing, but it's offered, and it's offered nationally at all our locations. And, the Veterans in Recovery program itself has really been able to impact a lot of lives. We get a lot of positive feedback on that. Again, for a lot of trauma, a lot of PTSD. We have trauma counselors, we have trauma therapists, we have veterans such as Rajani, who was on about a month ago or so, one of our therapists, and she's amazing, and they really connect with her and relate to her. And then we also have our therapy dog, Luke, who's right now. He's here too. So this is Luke the dog, and he's our therapy dog up in. Here he is. So
Aw.
He's a big guy. This guy loves
Yeah.
Papa.
That's Luke. Yeah. So Luke goes to our Florida locations, and boy, I tell you, he changes the whole atmosphere. And when he goes in, we deal a lot with mental health clients.
Put him in front so we can see him.
Here,
Everybody wants to see Luke. I see him on Facebook all the time. He sleeps in the bed.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, he's a cutie.
Yeah.
Oh.
Let's see Luke. Come on, Luke.
Luke, like, I ain't got time for this. I'm trying to relax.
Connie, no, but Connie, he's not a little fluffy chihuahua. You can't just pick him up, you know? Like, he weighs like,
He's a
he
big
weighs
guy.
more than you do.
He does his own thing. He runs the show. But
he's a big guy too. Does he eat a lot? He looks like he does.
he does. Well, so do I. So we get along really well. So he's getting all stuff I throw to him all day. But, I just love the fact that, he's a pit bull, American Pit Bull Terrier. They have this bad reputation, no fault of their. Some places they're even banned, like in Miami. So I'm in Broward County. When I would go to Dade County, I would have to bring him home because, it's just crazy. But the impact that he's had on our clients, especially when they get emotional and they're sharing something in a group and they start getting emotional, he goes right up to them and he puts his paw on their leg. And one time he put his head on this girl's leg and she started laughing within about 10 seconds and she was just crying. And so, it's an awesome thing. I totally am a big believer in pet therapy and the impact that they have. So I love what we were talking about before as far as with the pets and with the veterans pets. And So that's pretty much, what I do. I've been with Banyan for 6 years. I'm a chaplain. I'm a National Faith Program Director. Blessed to be able to do it. It increases my faith to see how God just transforms hearts with our clients. They come in completely broken in spirit, completely lost. And, a few weeks or so later, things start to change, and they start to have hope, and they start to have gratitude, and they start to have some peace. And
Right.
their identity is, God has not left them, and he's not written them off, and he still has a plan for them, and he still loves them. So we try to present that to them. And I love just seeing like I said, the genuine transformations of the heart with our clients over and over and over. It increases my faith on a daily basis. So I'm really blessed to be able to do this, and especially with our veteran community now as well. So,
Well, we're blessed to have you too. You're supposed to do a little prayer for us too.
oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Right now. Come on.
Ready?
Yeah, short prayer. Ready.
Father, we come to you with grateful hearts, and we thank you, Lord. We just ask you to bless everyone that's on this platform, Lord, and their families. And we ask you to just pour out your peace, the peace that surpasses understanding over all of us, Lord, and just protect our military, those that are in harm's way, Lord. We ask you to just bless them and their families and keep them safe. And we pray this in your son's name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. We
Amen.
always can use a good prayer.
Oh.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, it's on you, Taylor.
Respectability. I'd like to share about Respectability, a diverse, disability-led nonprofit that works to create systemic change in how society views and values people with disabilities, and that advances policies and practices that empower people with disabilities to have a better future. Their mission is to fight stigmas and advance opportunities so people with disabilities can fully participate in all aspects of community. Respectability knows that most people with disabilities can and want to fully participate in and contribute to all aspects of society. Respectability shifts narratives and creates progress by centering people with lived disability experience in leadership roles, ensuring authentic representation in entertainment and news media, advancing successful public policy, and pushing for faith-based and other inclusion. Respectability provides equal employment opportunities to all employees and applicants for employment without regards to race, color, religion, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, national origin, age, disability, veteran status, or genetics. In addition to federal law requirements, Respectability complies with applicable state and local law governing non-discrimination in employment. This policy applies to all terms and conditions of employment, including recruiting, hiring, placement, promotion, termination, layoff, recall, transfer, leaves of absence, compensation, and training. Respectability has a commitment to individual and organizational efforts to build respect, dignity, fairness, compassion, equality, and self-esteem in order to create an environment that is inclusive of all throughout their organization and the disability community. People with disabilities make up the largest minority group in the United States. In fact, 1 in 5 people in America has a disability, and this includes people from all genders, races, sexual orientations, and other minorities. In addition, due to accident, aging, or illness, disability can impact anyone at any time. Respectability believes all people with developmental, physical, sensory, mental health, and other differences deserve to be able to achieve their hopes and dreams just like anyone else. If you would like more information about Respectability, email them at info@respectability.org. Again, info@respectability.org.
Thank you. Great information. Okay, take it away, Martha.
Are we going to hot news with Charles, or do you want me to go back?
Your segment that you missed out on.
Okay.
Come on, get on a roll now.
All right, here we go. Homeless women, veterans are afraid to be separated from their children if they seek help, advocates say. Changes need to be made so women veterans who fear homelessness or at risk of becoming homeless don't live in fear to have their children ripped away from them. Women veterans are the fastest growing group of homeless veterans, according to the Department of Veteran Affairs. On a single night in January 2017, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, estimated that more than 40,000 veterans were homeless. And of those, about 9% or 3,600 were women. From 2016 to 2017, the number of homeless veterans increased by 7% compared to 1% of male veterans. And those numbers are even greater than current data shows, according to women veterans who testified at a congressional hearing. The House Veteran Affairs Committee's subpanel on economic opportunity held a hearing of the economic well-being of women veterans. Homelessness was one of the most common topics with far-reaching effects. Many women veterans who are homeless couch surf because they are more likely than their male counterparts to be single parents. Many women veterans find other people's homes to stay in to avoid being on the street with their children and avoid the risk of being separated by child services. But the federal government does not track the number of homeless veterans couch surfing, and women veterans are more hesitant to come forward to seek help because of their children, or because many aid programs and shelters either don't accept women, children, or place limits on the number and ages of children admitted. The top factors that contribute to women veteran homelessness are unemployment. 80% of women veterans who do not get care at the VA for domestic violence or being single mothers, many others have issues complicated by a lack of childcare. More than 2 million women have served in the US military, and more than 18,000 women joined the armed forces each year. They're the fastest growing group in the military, expected to comprise 10% by 2021 and 15% by 2035. It's heartbreaking to hear stories of women veterans, especially single mothers, fall into poverty and homelessness after separation from the military, says Ranking Member Representative Gus Bilirakis from Florida. No one who has served in this country should struggle, he says, and to struggle to provide for their families. Women veterans take on average 3 months longer than male veterans to find employment after they leave the military, and often earn less despite having the same skills enhanced by military service as men, witnesses say. They are more likely to have a lower median income, more likely to be below the poverty threshold, and have higher rates of unemployment. All of those things contribute to financial instability and put women veterans at risk of homelessness. In California, about 60% of women veterans said they had experienced some type of housing instability, and we're barely scratching the surface. You know, a lot of the facts that they point out in this article couldn't be more true, you know, from the very basic, you know, description of what constitutes homelessness. You heard something interesting about couch surfing. So if you go from, you know, one friend's house to another friend's house, you can stay 30 days here, you can stay 30 days there, you know, because it jeopardizes other people's living arrangements. You can't have extra people on your lease anywhere you live, right? So, you know, 30 days is usually about a maximum that you can couch surf. But interestingly enough, if you say that you're couch surfing, you're technically not considered homeless by HUD definition, because in actuality, there is a roof over your head, which makes it extremely difficult because that's not fair, right? It's not your roof, and it's not a secure roof, because again, you're looking at a 30-day or minimum timeline. So I've heard women, and when you call in to access services from any of these large organizations that have these federal grants, you know, I usually steer women away from saying couch surfing because they won't get services. The other thing we heard was about the separation of the families, right? When you're homeless, women and men, you know, depending upon if it's a family unit, in this case, we're talking about women and their children, you have to find alternative arrangements for the children. So it's usually the mother that's left to couch surf from place to place, car, apartment, wherever she can find. because there's really only enough space for the children. So maybe the children are at grandma's house. I've talked to women whose children are out of state because there's one family member that may be able to accommodate the children, but mom's here. I just spoke to a female veteran not very long ago that had the HUD-VASH voucher in another state, came to California, but because she couldn't, secure housing, the children had to stay behind. So it's really a real issue that we don't think about when we look at the layers of being homeless. And it's really quite sad. There was one woman I worked with who was homeless in Arizona. She left California because she couldn't get the services she needed post-divorce. She was homeless. She went to Arizona, slept in her car. She was hoping to get services there, and they told her she wasn't homeless enough. So when I called and asked, well, what's the definition? Again, there's one HUD definition of homelessness. They told me one night out in the street. But when the woman went in to advocate for herself, they told her she wasn't eligible. So long story short, with her, I was able to help her reroute through the Volunteers of America organization. And she just got housed about 3 months ago. But talk about, the will to really stick this out, the system that doesn't work, the system that makes it harder just to get even your basic needs met, like housing. It's really, really true. And it's sad. It's very sad. So I think that this is something that just continues to keep us, aware of the issue, right? And we get a chance to examine kind of some of the sub layers of this, big issue. And as we heard, one of the Congress members say, no one who has served this country should struggle to provide for their families and be homeless. No one. And we got to do a better job. So I'm very thankful that I'm able to be a part of this group to, just to continue to bring awareness to this issue. And then also with Operation Confidence to actually help veterans one-on-one that reach out to us, because it's that desperate. Women will reach out to another veteran in confidence, and that veteran will be able to forward her information. And that's how we've been doing it, one veteran at a time, vet to vet, peer to peer model here at Operation Confidence. So thank you guys. Sorry I wasn't able to jump in on time, but I think I kept it under
you
the
covered
time
it. You did a good job. You go, girl.
Inclusion.
Right. Yeah.
That says
The comment I'd like to make there, Martha, is
Sure.
I'm very concerned about the children. When
Yes.
the children see a mother homeless, and when the children see that there is no community to help that mother, by nature, children at different stages are affected. If they're young children, they learn that helplessness. If they're teenagers or preteens, they want to turn against the sadness, and they basically sometimes will actually abuse the mother. So I think this is a very serious issue that is lasting into generations, and it's more than just the horridness of the day-to-day and current situation. It really is a future problem for America.
Yeah,
it
I
is.
agree.
Okay,
It's
we're moving
definitely
right
something.
along. Thank you so much. That was some good information, don't you think, Martha?
Thank you, Connie. Yes.
My pleasure. Okay, let's go on with you now, Charles. We're starting to wind down.
All right. Well, hot news. That's what
He said, yes, I love it how he does that. Do it again, Charles.
Oh boy, here we go. Hot news.
Okay,
Like-
we got hot.
It's like the sun with the hot sauce on it. It's hot and flavorful. Today's hot news number 1. It's about qualifying service in the National Guard and Reserve. Generally, all National Guard and Reserve members discharged or released under conditions that are not dishonorable are eligible for some VA benefits. The length of your service commitment, and or your duty status may determine your eligibility for specific benefits. Active service. Eligibility requirements for several VA benefits include a certain length of active service. Active service in the National Guard or Reserve includes active duty Title 10, which is a full-time duty in the armed forces, such as unit deployment during war, including travel to and from such duty, except active duty for training or full-time National Guard duty. Duty Duty performed for which you are entitled to receive pay from the federal government, such as responding to a national emergency or performing duties as an active guard reserve member. A state's territory governor may activate National Guard members for state active duty, such as in response to a natural or man-made disaster. State active duty is based on state law and does not qualify as active service for VA benefits. Unlike full-time National Guard duty, National Guard members on state active duty are paid with the state funds as opposed to federal funds. Traditional members may become eligible for some VA benefits by fulfilling a service commitment. Eligibility for disability compensation requires that the disability was the result of an injury or disease incurred or aggravated in the line of duty during active duty or active duty for training. For inactive duty training, the disability must have resulted from injury, heart attack, or stroke. Other benefit programs require a specific number of days of active service. Now, this I can tell you, my case right now is I'm fighting with I'm on my last appeal. I went to basic training and then went to, as like Mark said, Fort Dix, New Jersey, and did I went to the defense mapping school and graduated from there. And before I made it home, I don't know how many days it was later, I was in a car accident, and I basically, almost lost my life. And so I ended up staying in Arkansas 10 days, a month before I came back home. And so I came home. I was here in home for 3 days, and I ended up going into the Long Beach VA for 10 days with pneumonia. The VA covered all of that. Everything was covered, but then I just recently found out, maybe 5 years ago or 4 or 5 years ago, that I may have been eligible for disability with that. And so I put it in a claim. And so they say, oh, no, you weren't far enough along, and it happened while I was traveling, of course. So, so I'm dealing with that. And so I kind of know how that, the VA doesn't work for its members all the time. It's it's like I'm okay with you coming and going to war and dying or whatever. But if you get hurt on your way home, then talk to somebody else. It's not exactly like that, but it kind of equates to that, because I've talked to people who have had somewhat similar cases. So anyway, that's just my part of the story.
Well, one wonderful thing about you haven't let it stop you. I mean, you use a wheelchair, but you still dive off buildings and jump out of airplanes.
Well, I have two chairs, It's called the wheelchair and the wheelchair,
Oh,
so,
the wheelchair got you.
So, it's like, I refuse to lose. So, I keep my
That's
head up
right.
and refuse to lose, because life is still good.
Yes, it
No
is.
matter how you look at it,
That's
so.
right. You and Taylor are role models for a lot of us,
We roll ROLE and ROLL. So,
Both are role models.
she's actually a role model. She was rolling, Miss,
Miss Wheelchair,
yeah,
California. Right. I'm Taylor. Can you hear us?
I did. Can you hear me?
Yeah, she's our little role model here. They don't let wheelchairs stop us. So anytime I get crickety crackety in the leg or the knee, and Martha crickety crackety with the hip, you can't say a word, because look how they're making it. Okay, no excuses.
Crickety crackety, huh?
Crickety crackety.
All right.
And two, Charles, just for clarification on that, the National Guard, the fulfillment is 20 years.
20 years, okay.
What do you mean?
That means you have to have served in the National Guard for 20 years before you become eligible for any
benefit.
Are you serious?
And I don't know what the reserve is, but it's the language. And see, here's the problem that I talked about. We talked about this before.
Yeah.
They sign you up, hurry up, get in, come on, sign up. And they don't educate you on all of these things that are possible that can happen. The education comes as you find out during life.
Right.
you know, after you long been in or out or whatever. And so it's unfortunate. And I think all of that stuff needs to be put somewhere so the person that signed up knows this is what could happen just in case. You know, I mean,
Right.
it's not, I know we can't just, chart everything that could happen, but, you know, there's got to be this big, just in case scenario for people to understand
Yeah,
this is what you're signing up for, you know. It
and
may not be all,
follow through, right?
yeah,
So like for
right.
in my instance, kind of like your example, the last couple days before I left AIT, the Advanced Individual Training, I was stationed in Fort Sam, Houston, and I got scarlet fever. So they said to me, and again, I'm 18 years old, fresh out of high school. I don't know no better. They said,
Mhm.
well, you can get it done here at Fort Sam, Houston, but you're going to have to stay here because my tonsils were infected. My neck was swollen. And so they'd have to wait for the swelling to go down. And so I would have to stay. Now, I was afraid because I have nobody there. Stay where? Stay with who? And then do a surgery here all alone. So I chose to go home. When I went home on the plane ride, it must have been worse for the situation, re-aggravated the situation. So again, I had to wait for surgery to have my tonsils removed. But like 20 years later, if I would have done it there, instant veteran status, because it would have been over the 180 days of training. And I would have done it. I could have had my parents fly down there, but no one tells you, right, the honest truth of the pros and cons. It feels like you said, just sign up. You don't get all the information. Hurry up and set. My recruiter never even took me to my National Guard station. So they called me the weekend, said, where are you? What do you mean, where am I? I'm at work. You're supposed to be at drill. My recruiter never told me. All he did was sign me up. But you see, so we do have to do a better job because it's not fair. You know, I hurt my foot in basic training. I should have been separated, you know, or gotten the service connection 20 years ago for that. Or the, you know, so it's really bad because now I'm going to be like you fighting for scraps, 10%, 20%, you know, 10 for my ears. You know, because
you got that rickety rackety hip, like I got the rickety rackety.
Yeah,
hip.
see, and it might be because I broke my foot on the opposite leg, and I've been overcompensating on the left leg ever since. So talk about a fight. You know, now I'm in the middle of one too.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
I still thank you guys for that information. We're gonna wind it down, Charles. We'll do part 2 next week.
All
Okay.
right.
But I wanted to take it from you, to take it on to you now, Brooke. We're winding the show down, and thanks everybody for coming on.
Thank you
back,
for
Brooke?
having us.
I'm here, but I'm going to turn it, I'm going to give it to someone else because the fire alarm is going off in my building and it's impossible.
Oh, yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, take it away, Taylor. Can't hear you. You and Martha got to carry it.
I would like to remind our listeners and viewers about our amazing advertisement rates. We have 20 and 30-second advertisement slots available. Please email info@operationconfidence.org for more information and visit Operation Confidence's website at www.operationconfidence.org resource page for some amazing resources. Also, check out our online store on our website. All items sold, such as our t-shirts and sportswear, sold 100% goes directly to Operation Confidence, Housing Workforce Development Building Fund. I would also like to inform our viewers and listeners about Amazon Smile. When making your next purchase on Amazon, please go to Amazon Smile and type in Operation Confidence in the Choose Your Organization donation box. Amazon will make a small donation to Operation Confidence.
On you, Martha.
Okay. Okay. So to all our viewers or any viewers out there we'd like to inform you about Operation Confidence's Positive Redirection Team, a group of male and female veterans who are mentors, having overcome similar challenges and situations, transitioning back into mainstream society. To be connected or to become a team member, email us at info@operationconfidence.org. Again, that email is info@operationconfidence.org. We are also excited to inform our listeners about Operation Confidence's Combat Boots and Lace Women's Veteran Mentoring Program, also incorporating some creative arts into the group. If anyone is interested or would like to get more information or get involved, please email us at info@operationconfidence.org. Or you can also email me at martha@operationconfidence.org.
Great, thank you. And so as we close out, we want to always inform our listeners that Operation Confidence is excited to have this show because our goal is to raise awareness. It's about our mission, which is to provide stable housing with a wide range of supportive services for our veterans, including employment opportunities. And those are for veterans, especially those who have experienced homelessness and, of course, are disabled. So to get behind and get involved with our grassroots efforts, please send us an email at info@operationconfidence.org. And make sure you visit our website. That's www.operationconfidence.org. We want to thank our guests for being on the show today, and always know that you have a special place here on American Invisible Heroes. And we're going to take it over to you, Charles, to close us out with the Rosies video, our PVA video, who's one of our sponsors, and our closing banner. Goodbye, everyone, and thank you so much for being on the show today. Bye.
Right.
Bye.
I am Buddy Canute, a former Rosie the Riveter. I riveted P-40 pursuit planes during World War II. We did our part back then. Now, can you step up and help the Rosies pull America together again? Please call 304-776-4743. That is 304-776-4743.
Long Beach, PVA, California, Chapter USA. The city by the waterfront, where the veterans work and play. Long Beach, PVA, California, Chapter USA. The city by the waterfront, where the veterans work and play. For more information or to be a guest on our show, email info@operationconfidence.org.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.